Hey guys, what's going on? Today I'm showing you something new that I found that would work for the majority of configurations running on Ethernet, and how to get Valorant's frame pacing to fix its netcode. Now this is very important because the way Valorant's engine runs, Unreal Engine has a strange thing called B frame smoothing, or B smooth frames. But that was a legacy feature all the way back to Unreal Engine 3. Now, the issue with Unreal's frame smoothing or frame capping is it's pretty atrocious. Alright, so the problem is with Valorant especially, not really with Fortnite or anything like that. Valorant's frame rate defines your shot priority, your peak is advantage, defines the netcode in general, and I don't know why they would do that. So, to fix this, there are pretty much just 2 or 3 steps here. You need to turn on Radeon Chill if you're on AMD. If you're on NVIDIA, the option will be fast VSync, and then you need to set the FPS cap to the refresh rate of your screen. So I'm running 144 here. I'm setting the FPS cap using Radeon Chill to 144 and 144. Now, enhanced VSync is on. This is in AMD's equivalent of fast VSync. FreeSync needs to be off, and G-Sync needs to be off in NVIDIA control panel. That's pretty important too. Scaling is whatever. You don't need to touch anything else here. So anti-lag, I don't think you can enable it at the same time as Chill. But with this done, the second step is to ensure that your USB devices either are on low or high priority, depending on which you can get away with. And if you're on Ethernet, here is the important part. The Ethernet should be on the top priority there, on high. So yeah, this took me a lot of research. This is just tons of trial and error until we can arrive at something that works. So we're running all line based here for the low input lag, and we have the i219LM Ethernet port from Intel, and that's running on high prio, and the USB controller is also understandably running on high priority. So what do you want to do here? Well, this works and seems to work just fine. I'll show you what it looks like in deathmatch, but Valorant is just a completely different game when you have the priority set right, and a lot of the time, if you have a good computer, it won't work, and a lot of the time, when you have a random computer config, it could just work fine. It really depends on what kind of hardware you are rolling in RNG. So, sorry though, my password is not that. Thank you very much. Okay, let's get this thing on the road. Oh. We're running this on Windows 11, Windows 10, same idea. Basically, Riot Games isn't exactly trusted to code Unreal Engine, especially considering how badly even Tripwire Games was coding it back in the day, but even Rising Storm 2 doesn't have issues nearly as bad as this. I know Rising Storm 1 had issues, Red Orchestra 2 had a lot of issues with smooth framing, and despite that, the netcode was still fairly okay, although there was no lag compensation or anything in that kind of idea. Well, the problem with Riot Games is that they just said in the last patch that they fixed, what was it? They fixed netcode somehow or other, but from my experimentations in the last day or two, I still have not seen a single difference whatsoever in that regard. So they're just chatting once again, and whatever they've done is completely useless at the end of the day. So as you can see here on my little pencil holder rig, we have a HP SFF build with an RX 580 and 4 sticks of 4GB RAM totaling 16, and that's all running Hynix DIMMs, 6500 i5, and yeah, very, very basic little setup going here. So we're just going to run this out and see how it all performs. In theory, everything should be fine now, so if your game looks as crisp as this, then that's what you should aim for. So far, I haven't seen anyone mention this, apart from maybe one bloke 2 years ago on the Valorant forum saying to use the external frame cap. Like, ever since release, a lot of times people have said, oh yeah, just use the in-game frame cap for every game because they're better, but this is not the case. Not for Valorant, certainly not for CSGO, surprisingly. Although CSGO's netcode is much, much less FPS or capping dependent than Valorant's at all. Like, it's nearly completely unrelated. So, this is a unique issue only to this game, so far as I'm aware. And Riot Games does not know what the hell is going on. They do not know how to fix this, and it's really just up to everyone here to do it for them. So, symptoms of having this strange low priority would be you're peaking and then you die instantly, or they're swinging you on, say... Sorry though, we just had a call, but I can't take the call, evidently, since I'm in again. Okay, so as you can see, everything feels crisp and nice, and the hit range seems to hit well. I don't know how many hits I actually landed though, because it just instantly respawned. Alright, let's get this all a rundown. I like to run the Bulldog actually, but AK's alright. Or the Vandal. It's a special game. Yeah. One thing I have noticed is that despite all these changes, you still have a lot of ping advantage on the enemy when they have around 50 ping, 40 to 50 ping. They can still swing you like a maniac. With about double the ping that they actually have, in effect. But yeah, that's not really avoidable, that's just Valorant's crap lag compensation. In fact, the only way I know how to fix that is if you spoof your ping to like, maybe 30-40 milliseconds. At least you'll be on an even playing field there. So yeah, how do I know that I have good netcode, or how do I know my computer is configured right? Well, when you hit someone in the headshot sound should play instantaneously. If you hit someone in the body, it always has a delay no matter how good it's set. So that's something to keep in account. So if you hit the headshot and the animation plays, or the animation plays after you hit the headshot by like about 50 milliseconds or a couple of milliseconds, then you know there's something wrong with your netcode and you should probably reconfigure your PC or change how you're placing your memory. Now, the other thing is, if you have 4 DIMM slots in your motherboard, please try and populate all 4 DIMM slots. That's pretty critical, because the way Valorant... the Valorant engine is very sensitive to your RAM's TRAS latency and your primaries. And the way those are set, they must be stable for Unreal Engine and only that. If you have it stable for anything else, if it's too tight or if it's too loose, it doesn't like it. You have to have TRAS and... okay, so the cast latency is pretty much, you can have it on anything. The second and the third timings there in the first set of latencies must be about 150% of the cast latency, and then the last timing, which is usually the TRAS? TRAS needs to be double those 2 timings. So if you have, say, 16, 22, 22, 44, that should be the ideal timing you have. Although sometimes some motherboards have maybe really bad tracing, so you need to add 2 or so to the TRAS to make the netcode fully stable. But yeah, if you're gaming on Ethernet, good for you. Hopefully you have a good Ethernet adapter like this Intel i2-19. Don't use the Microsoft driver, it's usually garbage. You have to get the manufacturer driver more often than not. It's just a better experience. But yeah. This seems to work very well for this config, and luckily it's a very cheap build, so yeah, it's not really a pay-to-win game, per se, in that regard. And this is just running 2133 stock timings, no XMP, nothing. Can't even set it on these HP. Oh yeah, that's just me whiffing. Okay, so, as you can see, working well. Caught me on the timing there. Oh yeah. Try to do this on your computers. If you have 4 slots but only 2 DIMMs and you can't buy any more DIMMs, put them in slots 2 and 3, reduce the speed to underneath 3000 megahertz, and you can try to keep XMP on if it's close enough to 3000, or just run XMP off and dial in those timings manually. Now, that's a bit more advanced, but if you're just running stock speeds on stock motherboards and you don't really care, try slots 2 and 3 on the motherboard instead of 2 and 4. Because the other thing is, the physical distance between the RAM sticks does seem to matter with the way that the BIOS trains them. It trains them much more consistently, and you'll get more consistent input lag across the board for all games if you have them in, say, slots 2 and 3. Now, slots 1 and 3 don't appear to have any effect whatsoever, although it might be very slightly more reliable than 2 and 4. But I cannot really confirm that. What I can confirm is that slots 2 and 3 is the current config that I'm running now on just 3000 megahertz, even though I had 4800 fully stable on memtest, but yeah, it just, every time I'd boot it up, it'd do a dice roll, and then sometimes I'd have really good input lag, most of the time, and then sometimes on an off day, or if the humidity is really high, I'd have a really, really bad input lag, or if the temperature is very low, I'd have really, really bad input lag. Now, you restart it 3 to 5 times, and suddenly your input lag goes good again. And this is the one way I've found that seems to kind of stabilize that, make it more predictable, and boot up very consistently. So I'm running at home. I have a 3000 CL12 kind of gaming rig on those memory settings. So yeah, much better experience. I finally started to rank up some in CSGO, back to aiming for global, but we're currently stuck in LEM. Well, yeah, it's certainly helped. The other thing is you can always overclock your graphics card VRAM a bit, and to do that you need to make sure your graphics card's priority is set to low first, otherwise it will start fighting your network adapter for CPU prior. Now that is a big thing, because recently a lot of them will be running MSI mode and high priority based on the MSI util settings that I'm looking at. So that's what they'll do by default. Now you want the network, doesn't matter if you have Wi-Fi or Ethernet, set the network adapter or whatever it's plugged into to high priority. So if you have USB, then set USB to high priority. If you have the Ethernet, set the Ethernet to high priority, and line-based. Oh yeah. Sometimes you'll have to use MSI mode, sometimes you'll be forced to use it because the driver does not support line-based mode. Those are rare and few in between, but a lot of the modern Ethernet adapters might not allow that. Some Realtek ones are just kind of unstable or just won't allow you to do that. But you can always get a USB or a PCIe expansion card that will let you do that, okay? Okay, so here we are on a different setup. We have an RTX 4090, a Ryzen 5800X3D, and 260 Trident Z Trio RAM, RGB, Trident Z Neo, sorry, and yeah, they're running at 3000 C15, and then the standard primary timings after that. We're running this on a full 360mm Corsair water cooler, and these will be our baselines. We're running Valorant now. I just need to get into bloody launch first. Alright, so this is fully no cap, and we're running on plus boost, and on plus boost on the NVIDIA control panel as well, or ultra low latency, as it's quoted there. So we're going to see how bad the Piggy's advantage and the HITREG is in this kind of configuration. I'm just going to get instantly head tapped here. This is running on forced MSI mode on the network adapter because it will not boot on line-based mode. It will just split screen, so you have to run it on MSI mode. And the priority of the network adapter is set to high. USB adapters are also set to high, although you can try them on low. There are situations where the USB might be overloading the CPU, but in this case, since we have a whole 128 megs of cache on the CPU, it's probably not going to happen. And that's a good thing, because you do want a large cache size for competitive gaming. That's pretty much given at this point, although it's not very much as critical as having good RAM. Because if you have good RAM, if you have low latency RAM, or if you have RAM that has tight timings, then that can effectively replace your CPU cache, and quite well in most cases. Okay, oh. Wait, as you can see, we're going to try and play here on these settings here. These are very stock standard settings. They're not really the default settings that you'll get, but yeah, it does certainly feel responsive. But the frame pacing after you start shooting seems to just kill itself. I don't know why, I don't know how, but it just somehow months out the left-hand side window and you can't really do anything about it. So here we go, we can do one taps pretty easily, we can snap the targets pretty okay, but yeah. Let's cut the talking and do more playing. Oh yeah. We're getting about 5 to 700 FPS here on the setup here with a 4090 and a 5800 X3, and just get swung like that. You can't react to that. I don't know what that guy's on, but he's on 24 ping. That's the weird netcode that I'm talking about when everyone else thinks they're getting bad priority or EBMM or just Like, things like that. I can't control my spray for some strange reason. My inputs aren't going in while the game is trying to, you know, process netcode, or someone peeking me, or me trying to peek someone. Okay, so at certain frame rates, this seems to be different. Like now, this seems to be different at different frame rates, but generally, it's not very consistent. Like, sometimes it'll be really good, sometimes you'll try to trace someone and you can't even catch them with a bullet spray. Like, the Interp is just ahead of you, and you can't hit them with the bullets, so you have to try to lead them, which is kind of dumb. And also, your spray pattern becomes effectively larger. Like, for example, that is an easy spray. I should have hit that, and I compensated for it perfectly, but the shots aren't hitting because the spray somehow widens more than it should have. And that's got something to do with the frame smoothing or the frame pacing here, and it's nothing really to do with how I actually aim. So comparatively, if we talk about CSGO, I'm currently at a skill level where I can comfortably say that I can stand my ground against LEs all the way up to global elites, and even go toe-to-toe with FACEIT maybe level 8s. Right? FACEIT level 10s will be a very hard challenge, and if not nearly impossible to beat, although I might go 0.5 KD against them very, very rarely. However, in Valorant, I cannot even outfrag silvers. There is a reason for that, and this is probably going to be why. Since a lot of people are going to get noob trapped, and I'm barely even a positive KD, I'm completely negative KD right now, let's be honest. I'm playing this right, I'm trying to get this right, I'm shifting when I need to, I'm counter-strafing when I need to, but I'm still not accurate when I need to be. That side, I'm also getting swung here and there, but if you put on the in-game cap, it becomes markedly worse, let's say. So, alright, we've done enough testing of that. It's not too bad from this go at it, but probably because I'm also running at, give or take, 700 frame rate, and most people probably don't have 700 FPS, let's be honest. If you're running at frame rates that high, then yes, you'll be able to just brute force over most of the crap netcoding. But as you can see, even that seems to still happen. Just BS spray downs and BS kills like that just don't make sense to me, and they shouldn't make any sense to anyone, as it should be. Alright, so my spray is absolutely horrendous on this. I'm going to put on the in-game frame cap, chuck it to 144. It's going to feel a lot better, and the shots are going to feel a little bit, you know, aiming is going to be easier, but the problem is, bullets are going through people now. People are swinging you now. People are pretty much one-tapping you before you even turn the corner. And that's a concerning thing, because this puts you at a different lerp time against enemy players, and puts you at a great disadvantage like that. Like, the animation isn't even playing properly, because the legs are spazzing out. But yeah, like that. That should have been headshot, surely, but then again, he did crouch, so I've got to give him that, sure. And things like that. There's people walking up to you, headshotting you, and you being physically unable to react because they are ahead of you in server time. If you compare the clip to the one beforehand on the i5-6500 with just the 16 gigs of potato RAM, this is 32 gigs, and look at that, look at that. I tried to aim at the guy, but I have to lead him to actually hit the shots because he somehow just avoids my aim point, and my shots are landing behind him. I'm not sure if that actually comes up on video, that my tracers are not following the crosshair, but they should be. They should follow the crosshair. At the very least, my crosshair should be where the actual point of aim is, but I have a feeling that the server doesn't feel that way. But yeah, as you can see, absolutely horrendous experience. I'm getting dumped on by the entire lobby here. I don't think these guys are very high ranked. If they are, there'd be Ascendants, and the Ascendants are pretty easy to shoot and kill. It's just a matter of, why am I inting my ass off in a DM lobby with 11 ping? on Ethernet? Those kinds of questions, if you start asking yourself that, you probably have a config or a computer that just had a bad roll of the dice. It doesn't matter how much you spend. It honestly does not matter how much you spend, because on a completely random roll of the dice, you can have people with the worst setups getting the best netcode, and you have people with the best setups getting the worst netcode, and you can have vice versa, but it really depends if you're lucky or not. There's nothing that really makes you a good player in Valorant unless you get something like that. And if you roll bad on the dice, there is no real way you can improve in the game. It's just impossible to play. Because if people can swing you on a dime like that, kill you instantly, but you can't do anything about it, and if you try to swing them, you get instantly head tapped, and they will always head tap you first before you can even shoot your second shot, then there's something wrong, especially if that's happening in silver and bronze. That should not be a thing. Valorant desperately needs to change their netcode. They definitely need to even try dropping their tick rates to like 64, or say 64 with interpolation up to 128 tick, but clearly the servers can't handle it, and then their game is running on an engine that is not designed to be competitive. You need Source Engine, you need Unity Engine that's been heavily modified, but Unreal Engine is just, it's not good for this kind of work. You cannot have a competitive game on Unreal Engine unless you are literally Epic Games and creating Fortnite and the engine at the same time, so you know the ins and outs. But Fortnite doesn't have a kernel level anti-cheat. Fortnite doesn't have crappy 128 tick interpolated, so in fact they have like 1020 tick servers or something, from last I heard. But they run well, they run better hit reg than Valorant, they're fairer, right? And you can swing people can swing you, and you won't die for free, like you do in Valorant. Why is that? Because Valorant cares too much. You need to have memory in the correct sockets, you need to have them running at the correct cast latency, you need to, well, not cast latency, the correct TRAS. Yeah, you need to have the secondary, primary, and tertiary timings set to sane levels. What are those sane levels? You don't know until you trial and error, until it's somewhere not too loose, but also somewhere not too tight. So these are the XMP settings that I've got on the Trident Z Neos, and they're running 15, 18, 19, 19, 39, 58 to T. So as you can see, set these to that kind of ratio and you should generally be fine. That is some B-die, I'm fairly sure, because 19, 1939 is a B-die kind of timing, and 58 is just the addition of TRP, TRAS, and the command rate on 2T, 1T does not really seem to matter too much for that kind of idea. Okay, and the DRAM frequency, most motherboards on Ryzen will be able to take 3000 MHz. If you have the old AB350s from ASRock, you probably can't even run past 2800, unfortunately, so dump that motherboard if you have it and get something better, because a lot of boards won't be able to take that from the really, really old times, where you have 4-slots boards that can't even go past 2933 on a good day. Anyhow, that's that. Get yourself a good setup, guys. It doesn't have to be expensive. This is a $5,000 PC, and it can't beat a $600 potato box that's running 4 sticks of DDR4. And yeah, look, if you're going to buy a new PC, I highly recommend getting a 2-socket motherboard, because the memory is going to train much more consistently on the TRTLs and the other ones that ever actually affect your input lag on startup. So even if you have all of these timings locked in, some tertiary quaternary or some random ass timing or random ass reset line is going to take longer when it's more humid, when it's colder, and shorter when it's hot. I don't know why, but something somewhere in the RAM trading algorithm will mess up if you have running RAM in slots 2 and 4 instead of running RAM in slots 2 and 3. And if you have slots 1 and 3 populated, it doesn't really do anything. If you have single channel, however, so the first 2 slots populated, it's actually incredibly responsive. And the only caveat to that is that it's not as high frame rate because you only have single channel, right? Single channel's kind of ass for that reason. But any other day of the week, I did actually get to a fairly high level in CSGO back in the day, just running single channel for that exact reason, because the training was consistent and the input lag was fairly low. And that was on DDR3. DDR4, DDR3, DDR2, DDR1, I'd say the same principle will apply to all of them, although in DDR3 the effect is much less pronounced. So here's the thing, if you have XMP or no XMP, try this out, especially if you run non-XMP RAM or if you just run a crappy consumer motherboard. Try running them in slots 2 and 3 and see if you have a more consistent gameplay starting from today, because as far as I can say, every single computer I've built running 4 slots motherboards with slots 2 and 4 populated feel different nearly every time you boot it up, until maybe 2 or 3 restarts afterwards, and it starts to kind of level out, because 1, you might be trying out any humidity, and 2, you might be warming up the board. So that's why I think it's temperature and humidity based, and that's why you should definitely look into doing something like that. Something so simple as moving the RAM 1 slot to the left here to cover slots 2 and 3. Alright, this will not be in your motherboard manuals. They'll be recommending against it because you can't get optimal high frequency RAM speed. But what's the point of that when you can't even get consistent input? Like, you can have 5000 MHz RAM, you can have 7000 MHz RAM, but it's not going to be consistent since it's on slots 2 and 4. And the RAM training on the motherboard is not going to be consistent when you have it on slots 2 and 4 for some stupid reason. I don't know why, but Intel and AMD have both been very lax on enforcing any kind of strict RAM training standard when you're running high speed on slots 2 and 4, which is, well, good for interference, right, but really bad for training. Once again, I don't know why this is the case. I don't know why motherboard manufacturers, nearly all of them, do this, and I really don't think I've found a single manufacturer that doesn't train slots 2 and 4 badly. But yeah, from what I can say, do that, guys. Give it a shot, see how it works. I'll get some high speed here. I got an Picasso Brave 8 finally, so I'll be able to make some. Oh, that's the battery. I'll be finally able to make some high speed footage at about 480 frames. Unfortunately not 1000 frames, because the 1000 frame cameras are nearly completely unaffordable to me. But this is finally here. I'm going to get a mount for this, and it's going to be coming in tomorrow. I've got a little desk mount here. Wonderful thing from Small Rig. Certainly looking forward to buying more of those. Pieces of gear from them. And yeah, they're good quality, so I'm going to have a definitely bit of a look forward to that. Anyhow, hope you liked this video. Don't forget to drop a like, or I'll drop your RAM timings. And yeah, take care of yourselves. Don't forget, this is for NVIDIA. You got to go here, manage 3D settings, go to vertical sync, set this to fast, and you got to go up here. Low latency mode ultra is fine. You want that in Valorant because it is much faster, and you want to set max frame rate to your refresh rate, which in this case is 144. Now press OK, and you should be done. That's it. Apply that across all games. I know for CSGO, you'll be fine on this, so long as you have the fast VSync on. Although if you want no VSync, then you should set this to 143 for CSGO and other Source Engine games. Alright, we are back now with the NVIDIA Fast Sync and 144 frames capped from the control panel itself, and still with the same cast latency RAM and same TRAS from before. We're going to see how this performs over what it used to be. Yeah, so 15, 19, 19, 39, 58. There you go. Let's see how this runs. Yeah, off the bat, you can see that headshot was absolutely cleaned out of the toilet. So let's see how consistent this will go. We're doing 144 frames. NVIDIA is markedly better than AMD in capping frames, and the experience is a lot smoother, more consistently than AMD delivers. You will feel like, oh, there's a little bit of stutter here and there, but the stutter doesn't actually affect your aim whatsoever, because even though your FPS seems to drop quite a few frames, your aim is still traveling to the point quite well, very consistently, and is regardless of whether or not the frames dropped or not. So here we go, we're already on top of the board. It's just off of one small change on the control panel. Spray pattern's tightened up. I'm hitting these headshots, hitting the sprays. And oh, unlucky. But yeah, same thing, enemies like very high ping. Generally, if you're on plus boost and you don't have this set correctly, you're gonna have a really bad time because everyone's gonna be swinging you and you have no idea why. So if you have reflex on, leave it on and leave the control panel on off if you're running just default settings, guys. If you're running just default, so no frame caps, no nothing, then yeah, leave them to on and off. On the video control panel, you leave it off, and this one you're on. Anyhow, but if you want to be anywhere competitive, if you want to clutch, if you want to hit consistent headshots, if you want to hit consistent sprays, go outside of the engine, turn off all of these frame limiters, turn this to on plus boost, turn the low latency mode to ultra on the NVIDIA control panel, and look at the difference. It's night and day. When you hit shots and when you get peaked, they're way more consistent, they're way more speed governed, so they don't peak you on like 3 times the actual movement speed that they're meant to have. And well, that's just unfortunate. But yeah, I was in the air flying across the map there. Okay, that's good, good hit. Oh yeah, as you can see, hopefully, there is a bit of a palpable difference here, because I haven't really done any high speed on this yet. I haven't even restarted the computer, and there you go, there's a little bit of micro stutter here, but the stuttering does not affect how I can move my mouse. This is running on a 5800X3D and an RTX 4090. So yes, even this will stutter, just a little bit, but that's fine, because if your aim is consistent, if your headshots are hitting, if the netcode is properly running like a well-greased machine on an M16, then you're going to get rank ups after rank ups after rank ups. You're not going to have bad games, you're not going to have games where you carry to 40 kills and then derank to 3 kills the entire game. This is what I'm talking about, guys. This is the way to fix Valorant without having to suck up the Riot and hope they finally release the update out of the 5 updates they did fixing netcode, apparently. I've talked to Valorant support. They have no idea what's going on. I told them raw input buffer has a strange issue. It doesn't really do what it says on the tin. It's really just a buffer, to be honest. And then the only thing that will really do is help you if your USB controller is really, really bad or really old or really inconsistent with the refresh rate. So yeah, that's just that. But as you can see, my hit reg is clean as a whistle, and just a moment ago on this PC, I was missing like pretty much all of my sprays, all of my shots were not hitting headshots. I was tracing targets behind server time somehow, so I need to lead my targets to actually hit them, but of course you can't. What happens when you make the connections and everything is good. I'm running this on Wi-Fi, by the way. I don't believe me. One stick. Nuts. 124 and 4. The chest. Doesn't make any sense. Okay guys, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you like this kind of long and short form content that I'm constantly posting these days. It does take me a lot of time to get everything together and quite a lot in the way of funds as well. I spent $600 to get a high-speed camera in from the United States because my phone just is not cutting it past 240 frames. So yeah, please do show some support. Leave a comment below if you have any situations like this and if this actually did help you, because I know this applies across so many different configurations and so many computers by dice roll, guys. And yeah, don't forget to drop a like or might accidentally drop your FPS. Take care all, and see you next time. Got him. There you go, bro. I'm in functional netcode, that's it. Can't hit that if my netcode's scuffed.